Okay, everyone, we're going to start the review for the trig assessment. I'm going to start with problem one. One thing with the triangles, when you label them, don't automatically assume what your right angle is going to be. So when I look at what's given in the whole part with 45, 8, and 90, angle C is the 90. And then it doesn't matter where you put A and B, so I'm just going to put A up here and B here. And I know this is 45. And side B is worth 8. So now I'm going to go ahead and put it into my picture. So big A is 45, little b is 8, big C is 90. And hopefully by now, since you've written all of this, you've realized that this is one of your shortcuts, your 45, 45, 90. All right, so again, hopefully you realize that this is a special right triangle. This is the LLH. Um, so when I look, I'm going to go actually finish my angles. So if A is 45 and C is 90, then B is 45. And when I look at what B is one of the legs in my picture, so that's 8. That makes my other leg 8, and that makes my hypotenuse 8 square root of 2. And then I just have to put them in the appropriate places in the box. So A is another leg, and then my hypotenuse is C, so I'm just going to put the 8 square root of 2. So that's the quickest way to go through this, and that's the way you want to get done with this problem, is to use the shortcuts. All right, now I'm going to go to number 2. So again, I'm going to take my information, fill it into my picture. I'm going to go and draw my picture. So my picture right now, angle A is my 90. And it doesn't matter, again, where I put B and C. So I'll put B up here and C up here, or down there. So A is 2 square root of 3. And big B is 60. Go ahead and mark that. And now I'm going to go ahead and start filling in. So again, we have another special right triangle. If A is 90 and B is 60, then C is 30. And now I'm going to go ahead and mark my small, medium, large. And remember, the large side is always opposite the largest angle. So that's your A's. Now, in this problem, what I need to do is I need the short side first. And normally, to go from the short side to the long side, I just double it. So to go back, I'm just going to take my 2 square root of 3 and just cut it in half, which then, if I just cut it in half, I'm only left with the square root of 3. And now to go from my short side to the medium side, I need to take the short side, the square root of 3, and put a square root of 3 with it, which when I actually multiply that gives me the square root of 9, which turns out to just be 3. So my medium side is worth 3. And now I can go in and fill in my other sides. My longest side is already done for me. My shortest side is the square root of 3, and the longest side is worth 3. All right, let's go to the next one. So the first thing I notice is I only have to figure out what B is. So what I'm going to do is organize my work a little bit better. I'm going to put A as my right angle, and then it doesn't matter, again, where I put B and C. And little b is worth 11, so that'll go here. And little c is worth 7, so that will go here. And when I look at what I actually have to find, it's this angle. So since this is not a special right triangle, it could be, but I don't know that it is because they don't give me angles. I'm going to have to use my regular right triangle stuff, SOHCAHTOA. So based on this angle, again, the hypotenuse isn't part of it, so I'm not going to mark it. 11 is opposite, and 7 is adjacent. So for this one, I'm going to use tangent. And it goes tangent, the angle that I'm looking for, and then opposite over adjacent. And now when I look at how do I get b by itself, to get tangent gone, I do the opposite of tangent, which is that tangent -1. And now b is by itself. And then I have to do tangent -1 to the other side. And remember, hit second tangent on your calculator. At this point, maybe you want to press the mode button on your calculator and look at the third line and just make sure that degree is highlighted and not radian. But when I type in second tangent, my calculator gives me about 57.5. So I'm just going to write down 58. And that's done for number 3. I don't have to find anything else. All right, let's go to number 4. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is create my picture. So B is now my right angle. So I'm just going to put A and C over on the right. I know that big A is 63. I know that little a, opposite of it, is 24. And when I look at what I'm supposed to find here, it says solve for c, so this is what I'm looking for. So again, the first thing I notice, it's not a special right triangle. It's definitely not because I have a 63-degree angle, not a 60. So I'm going to look for my hypotenuse. There is no hypotenuse, so I'm not going to mark it. 24 is opposite of 63, and x is adjacent to 63. So with O and A, and I think of SOHCAHTOA, that's the TOA part, O and A. So again, I'm going to use tangent. This time I have an angle to put behind it, 63, and then it goes O over A. And as soon as I see that fraction, I'm going to go straight into cross products. So cross products, 24 times 1 is 24. Multiply the other way, and I want whatever the tangent of 63 is, remember it's worth a decimal, times x to also give me 24. And now when I look at what it takes to get x by itself, I only have one thing to move. It's tangent of 63, which is a long decimal, so it's easy to write the tangent of 63. And since it's multiplied to x, I'm going to divide by x. Or I'm sorry, I'm going to divide by tangent of 63. And when I type that into my calculator, I get 12.2. And side lengths, again, I want you guys to round to the nearest tenths and angles to the nearest whole number. So that's the first page. Let's move to the second page. So looking at number 5, again, I'm going to fill out my picture. Big B is my right angle. A is my 45, and C I'll just put down here. And then little b, which turns out to be the hypotenuse, is 20. I'm going to fill in my boxes. And by now, hopefully you realize that this is one of your shortcuts. So this is the LLH, so I'm going to write that down. And when I look at what I'm given, I'm actually given the hypotenuse this time. And normally, to go from the leg to the hypotenuse, I would like a square root of 2 to just take away. But there's not one. So this was that shortcut to the shortcut. If there's not a square root of 2 to take away, the leg is just going to be the hypotenuse, the 20 amount, and then I write square root of 2 over 2 with it. If you leave this as your leg, that's fine. But maybe some of you will hopefully realize that you can actually take that 20 and divide it by 2, and it's actually 10 square root of 2. And that makes that A, and it's also C. And then going to the angle real fast, the other one's 45 because the angles add up to 180. All right, so 5 was another shortcut. It was a tougher shortcut, but hopefully you remember the trick. All right, let's go to number 6. So again, I'm going to take my information. This time I'm going to put it in my picture first, or in my box first. And now I'm going to put in my picture if you want. Sometimes it's helpful to see. So C is my right. I'll put A up here and B here. And I could switch A and B around. It doesn't have to be there. But little a is 16. And I know that big A is 60. Well, when I go to my angles first, again, this is a 60, 30, 90 triangle, 30, 60, 90, however you want to say it. So B is 30. So doing that, this is a shortcut. So I'm going to write SML, and we're going to figure out what side this is. So 60 is my medium side. So the 16 is going to go here. And to go to the short side, I need a square root of 3 to take away. But there's no square root of 3 here to take away. So when there's not, it just means that the short side is going to be that 16, and I'm going to put a square root of 3 over 3 with it. So this is the shortcut to the shortcut. Now 16 divided by 3, I can't get a nice number. I actually get a decimal if I divide them. So I'm just going to leave it like this. That's okay. And to go from the short side to the long side, I'm supposed to double this 16 square root of 3. The only number that actually gets doubled is the 16. So that's what I'm going to do, is just double it. And when I double 16, I get 32, and then the square root of 3 over 3 just comes along with it. And if you want to fill these into the right box, that would be great. B is that 16 square root of 3 over 3, and then C is the 32 square root of 3 over 3. All right, let's go to these word problems. Don't be afraid of the word problems, you guys. They're actually not that bad. They're all going to be right triangles because we're in the right triangle part. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a right triangle in there and then read the problem, figure out where things go. So a chairlift on a ski slope has an angle of elevation. Angle of elevation means if you're standing somewhere and you look straight ahead and you look up, there's an angle formed. This you learned in geometry. And that angle, it says, is 28. So what I'm going to do is put that 28 right here, because that matches my picture that I drew over there. And it covers a total distance of 4,640 feet. So the chairlift, when it goes up, covers a distance of 4,640. So that's actually the hypotenuse, because that's the way the path the chairlift would go. And it says to the nearest foot, what's the vertical height covered by the chairlift? This is what I'm looking for. So at this point, I just have to figure out, is this sine, cosine, or tangent, because I've got a right triangle, and it's not a shortcut because I have 28 here and not any of those special numbers. So looking at my picture, um, I've got my hypotenuse, but then x is opposite. So with SOHCAHTOA, O and H is the SO. So I'm going to be using sine. And behind the sine, I'm going to put my angle, and then it goes opposite over hypotenuse. And from there, I can just do my cross products. Uh, Sine of 28 times 4,640 is 2178.3, and that would be the same as x times 1, and I'm done. There's my answer. All right, that's it. I'm going to stop here because the bell's about to ring, and I'll pick up in a little bit. All right, so picking back up, even though there was only a pause for you, we're going to go to number 8. Number 8 uses the picture at the right, and it just talks about that I'm using a ladder, I'm laying it against a chimney, um, and that everything's in 1 foot measurements. So it says, for safety, you should know that you have to have a 75-degree angle between the ground and the ladder, and that's what they show you over here in the picture, okay? So the first time I do this, using this, what I'm going to do is just redraw my picture, because each problem is going to have a slightly different picture, and I'm going to put the 75 here. And when I read what 8A says, it says your smallest extension ladders has a maximum length of 17 feet. So the longest that I can extend the ladder, is going to be 17. And they want to know how high would that ladder be. So this is what I'm looking for, and I'm going to call it x. So based on this picture and this angle, 17 is my hypotenuse, x is my opposite, and so O and H, I'm back to sine, and it goes sine of 75 equals opposite over hypotenuse. And now I'm ready for my cross products. I take x times 1 for x, and now my answer will be whatever sine of 75 is times 17 on the calculator. And rounding that, I get about 16.4. All right, 8b. So in 8b, same triangle. I have 75 down here, and it says you place the base of the ladder 3 feet from the chimney. So that means for this one, that my 3 is going to go here. How many feet long should the ladder be? There's my ladder, so that's going to be my x. And again, based on this picture, x is my hypotenuse, uh, 3 is adjacent, so with A and H, I go to cosine. And it's cosine of my angle equals 3 over x. And now I'm going to do my cross products. So 3 times 1 is 3. Cosine of 75 times x should also be 3. And now when I look at what I have to do to get x by itself, I have to divide by cosine of 75. And now on my calculator, I'm going to take 3 divided by cosine of 75, and that'll be my answer. And I get x, and rounding it, you should get 11.6. All right, last one, 8c. Setting up my picture again. And actually, I'm going to have to stop the video here and put 8c in the next one because I'm only allowed to do 15-minute videos. So 8c will be picked up on the next video.